This is Real Motherfuckers Podcast, where I, Vanessa Anderson, ask all the uncomfortable questions so you don't have to. Let's do this. Today I have two special guests on the podcast. I am very excited. Well, the first one's right next to me. I don't call her my ex-co-host because she's just my co-host that can come whenever she wants. Yeah. Stephanie Cooley's here today.
Hello, I'm so glad to be back.
I'm so glad to have you. I was able to get our guest today, which I will announce because I want to give her proper introduction. I thought, man, this is a conversation for more women to be involved in, and what better woman to be involved in this conversation but you?
Yes, I cannot wait to get deep into this.
I know, me too. I'm very excited. So I'm going to go back to going right into it. When I was in my teens and early 20s, sexuality had just a different view. It had its own set of rules and limitations of what was being propagandized to me, to be quite honest, of what sexuality needed to be. And being sexually, and it had a curtain, a physical I had to have certain physical characteristics within myself to even be sexy. If I didn't have bigger breasts, if I was skinny or overweight, that was not being sexy. There was all these layers to
young.
it. Yes. And on top of that, it had an expiration date. Mm-hmm. Like sex had an expiration date. To me, the expiration date when I was younger was about 35. But that was until I reached 35 and I found out that's not true. That's not true, of course. So during my teen years, I watched a coming-of-age teen sex comedy, and its name is American Pie. A lot of people my age, in their, late to early mid-40s, know about this movie. And it was here that I learned the word tantra, because one of the characters was always sophisticated and had this world knowing, and he was practicing it for his young lovers in the movie. Well, today I'm so excited to dive into this episode to learn, explore, and engage in a healthier mindset of sexual energy. To enlighten us, we have today Tracy Gnojek, a neo-tantric educator, artist, and sensual lover of life. What a pleasure to have you here today, Tracy. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me. This is such an honor, and I'm really excited for our conversation.
Me too. Me too. So I guess we start with the basics, right? What is Tantra? Is that how you would say it? Tantra or Tantra? How do you?
Well, maybe if you were in India.
Okay. But here it's Tantra.
I say Tantra, but
Okay.
I have heard so many different variations of it, and I'm not really one to correct anybody, so I can't say I know the exact pronunciation in the original tongue of it, but I say Tantra. And Tantra is a huge, huge umbrella of information, going back to whether it's a traditional Tantra, where it's a more spiritual practice of reading texts. What I practice, I like how you said that I'm a neo-tantra educator, because that is the new version. It's more sexuality based and more focused on that. So it is I'm not a Tantra teacher of the original tradition. I am a Tantra educator of the sexuality aspect of it. And one thing, instead of like educator or teacher, I really love the word reminder. So I like reminder of people, to people, for people, because I'm a believer that we all have it within us, but we forget sometimes. And so I'm here just to remind us, and even to remind myself. That's why we often learn things, right? Is to remind ourselves of something we've forgotten. So Tantra, in my definition, is something really holy. We've all walked into places where it brings a lot of reverence to us. We are in awe. We're in great beauty. It could be a sunset. It could be a cathedral. It could be a sandy beach. It could be our dog. It could be our children. Something that is really awe-inspiring and holy to us. And to me, that's what Tantra is. Treating our body, our own body, our partner's body, partners, however many, whatever they look like, with great sacredness, great holiness, great awe, great curiosity. And by using that as a platform, it can go so many different directions. It's limitless what we can learn about ourselves and our partners. It also includes energy, breath work, meditation, sounding. Those are some of the basic foundations, the basic stepping stones into a tantric world. And where you take it either solo or with a partner is once again limitless and endless.
So would you say, like Kundalini, the Kundalini breath, and, would be, I mean, any breath really, but the Kundalini breath maybe specifically would be a very helpful style of yoga that would help with this practice?
Absolutely. Kundalini breath is used to activate our energy, to amp it up more. We all live a busy life with a lot of stresses, and sometimes we're tired and we just don't have the energy for even basic things in life. You can use breath work in any facet of life. It doesn't have to be just in the bedroom.
100%.
But with our partners or with ourselves, amping our energy, using that breath work together, offbeat, synchronized, not synchronized, however you want to play with it, breathing in, breathing out. It just amps our energy, and it amps it and amps it and amps it. One of the things with Tantra is to feel one with the divine, whoever you think that is, whatever you think that is. It could be yourself. And amping that energy through Kundalini breath can really take us there for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I was reading, there's all these different energies that I've been kind of studying, and they're saying, that sexual energy is one of the most powerful, but like in the sense that you said, when you're really respecting and you're really acknowledging the other person's energy, because that's almost like the volcanic explosion of this beautiful energy. And a lot of people, choose to be abstinent from sex for a while they're practicing this to, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I've understood is, there's this period of time when they don't have sex to really meditate and be, and, this perfect, or not perfect, but a balanced, great energy before they connect with their loved one. Is there truth in that? Or can you add something to what I've just said? And I just feel like I know the AB, not even C's of this, and it's A through Z. So this is what I've heard.
I like how you said that. It's very true. I will say that everybody has a different journey. Sometimes celibacy or solo practice is what somebody really wants to concentrate on. I have gone through that journey. I have found great benefit with it. Because when we understand ourselves, we can help our partners understand us better. We kind of expect them to be mind readers, and they're not. So if we can't explain ourselves what we're experiencing, how do we expect them to interact with us? We want them to know it all, and they won't. So by learning our own techniques, what we like, what we don't like, how our energy runs, where we feel it in our body, that's a lot of our practice, is getting in touch with our bodies and feeling our entire body. And what that means to each one of us. Do we have numbness? Do we have more pleasure in one area versus another? Is one place more erotic for us? By learning that in solo practice or in celibacy, maybe celibacy means no sexual practices for any amount of time, and just experiencing our bodies as they are without engaging with them in a sexual way. So learning that is really, really a key point and great foundational work for moving forward.
Can we take a step back? Because I feel like this is very broad for my brain. And I think I maybe understand it better if you can tell us how you began being a teacher, a reminder of Tantra. Because I'd love to just maybe get a little bit more granular of just how that it sparked within you, how it all began with you, how you discovered it, and why you've decided to spread this or remind others about it.
Thank you, Stephanie. Sure, absolutely. I was raised in a very religious setting, and it was very oppressive sexually. And when I say that, I just mean missionary position was the only thing that was really allowed. And anything outside of that would have a displeasing effect to God. And the ramifications of displeasing God were very, very fear-inspiring to me. And I didn't want the outcome of displeasing God. So I stuck by those rules. And I didn't really think I had a choice. I didn't know a lot of things until my mid 40s, honestly.
Wow.
So once I left that belief system, I started exploring. I went, I lived my college days in my mid 40s.
Go for
I'll
it.
just say that.
Hey, that's
You know,
when you're the
I-
hottest and your sex drive's on fire. So
Yeah.
go for it.
46 is awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. And at that time, I felt like I was honestly on a fast track of the universe to learn sexuality more. And it was more just, can I swear on here?
Yes,
Good.
you can.
It's real motherfuckers. You can do whatever you want. That's what I'm saying.
Go fucking do it.
Exactly. It was just a lot of fucking around. And I had a lot of fun, and it wasn't the most sacred. It wasn't the most honoring. It was just a really good time, which I still believe in. It's not one or the other. It's totally both. So my journey took me onto this fast track of learning sex. At that time, I was also living with a friend of mine, and she was in education her whole life. And I was deciding now in my mid 40s, what am I going to be when I grow up? I don't know. I mean, I had a marriage since I was 22, which he's an amazing man. I had a religion from the age of 2. I lost all my friends. I lost my job. I lost my house. I lost my marriage. Everything disappeared. And when I say lost, that was a choice. You know, it wasn't like I was the victim of all of that. So with that said, my friend asked me, well, would you ever want to teach anything? And I said, the only thing I could imagine teaching is sex. And where did that come from?
Yes.
Who said that? And so as things work, when we put it out there, an intention, a desire, a knowing or a desire to know, things started coming into my periphery and into my focus. People that had gone to tantra schools, people who were sexual educators, people who had friends who were in the tantric world. And I didn't know that much about it. I mean, I'd heard of Kama Sutra, like many people have, and that's about it. Maybe read some of the books, looked at some of the pictures. But beyond that, I wanted to be in touch with myself. I wanted to understand. I wanted to be an awesome lover. You know, I wanted to share something really deep with another person and really exciting and really charging and really juicy. I wanted that for me. And so I don't know, 7-8 years ago, went to school. You know, I was really not in my comfort zone. It was very foreign to me and also very natural to me. Like, I don't know if you've experienced that. It's like so not in my circle, but it felt right.
Right.
And I just absolutely fell in love with it. And since then have, you know, gone to a lot of different other trainings and taken in a lot of tools that I can use with myself and with others and played with it. Really, that playfulness, that curiosity, that childlike wonder, not childish, but childlike wonder, where we are really in awe of something new, however big, however very minute. And Tantra is very subtle as well. So it took me on my journey of the subtle body and what that means for me and for others. And so now here I am, many years later after a divorce, and really appreciative of the path that I have walked and am walking.
Thank you for
And
sharing that. Gosh.
Still learning. Like, it is a huge A to Z. Yay.
Yeah, it's fun to be at sea. You have a lot to look forward to. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And I have a lot of mentors and friends in my life older than me, and they are representing how sex is ageless, how they're in their 70s and it's some of the best sex they've had. So rock on, you know, you don't need to be stuck.
Yeah, that's kind of where I wanted to go with this, because I mean, to be quite honest, like my grandparents and stuff, like I would never have pictured them having sex. And then later, my grandma at her deathbed, she's like, hell no, your grandpa still rocked it till like 2 years before he died because he had Alzheimer's. He's like, he wanted it like 3 times a week still. Like, she was like straight up telling us everything. And I'm like, well, good fucking for them. You know, of course it made me giggle and it was fun, but but when you're a child, or when you're aware of sex in the beginning, the only thing that we see in films and we're educated is teen sex and early 20 sex, and that's because that's when we're making children, or that's when we're curious, and there's this just narrow parameter of it, and that we don't get told to know. I mean, I don't feel like I got really told that sex is great in the 40s until like I started to experience it or talking with some friends, but I didn't know what my sex life was going to be like after children, or in the middle of my life, or what it's going to be in the next 20 years. And I feel like I need to work on that myself, because to me, it's like, okay, well, gravity's happening. My body is changing. I'm learning to love the history it's creating and the crevices that it's creating, but it's not easy for me. I'll be straight up. And I want to feel sexy. But to me, like I said earlier, sexy is staying in a 30-year-old body.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I remember having this reminder of like, oh, even, quote, old people still want it,
Yeah.
And I was at a Thanksgiving dinner at my in-laws. And great Aunt Ruth, she was like in her 90s, and she's outlived like 4 husbands. And I was just like, Great Aunt Ruth, or someone asked her, Great Aunt Ruth, what do you miss about like your marriages? And she's like, the sex. And I'm like, oh my God, like, yes. You can be in your 90s and still want it.
Yeah.
And that's being human.
It is.
And it's such a good reminder that we all have needs and wants. So.
Yes.
Yeah. So can you give us we'll rewind on Tantra again about it being subtle and then the energy exchange, because I really want to go into that again too. But since we're on this topic of aging and trying to accept it gracefully, but also looking forward to having sex older. Do you know what I mean? When we are even the finest wine on the top shelf. That's how I'm going to start to look at it, Can you help us with this? Because it's our society is so toxic with its mindset on when sex ends and who's supposed to have it.
And also, I talked to my neighbor who's in her 70s, and she was like, oh, you are so young in your 40s. Just wait until you get into your 50s and your 60s. It gets even better. She was just talking about life. And I was just reminded about how life changes and things feel differently. And I mean, can you tell us, is it, is each decade, does sex feel different as you get older? And is it,
I know. So we're loading you up right now. Make us feel sexy when we old, and how is it?
Yes. Well, I'd like to rewind just a little bit, Vanessa. You said something that was really, I think, a key point and very important. You said that you wanted to feel sexy in your body, and as it was aging, you didn't like that. And I'm along there with you. I see the wrinkles, and I see various things changing in my body, and I want to hold on to my youthful appearance, not for anybody else, but for myself. Mm-hmm. And one of the really important things is, I was at a retreat one time, and it was all women, and we were doing like sexy dances for each other. And this was one of the biggest learning experiences I ever had. And I was trying to be sexy for someone. Mm-hmm. And I was clumsy, and I was awkward, and I was really focused on myself and nervous and embarrassed. And I'm like, I'm not sexy. I'm like clunky, and like I've never been sexy in my life is how I felt. Then we switched it, and they said, start dancing sexy for yourself. And I felt my sexiness within me, and I was touching myself, what felt good to me. I wasn't even thinking about the person in front of me. It was all about me. Mm-hmm. And I learned right then and there that an interaction with another person is a lot about what we feel inside.
Right.
100%.
Yeah. We've had several sex episodes.
I'm sorry, what?
I'm sorry. We've had several sex-focused episodes, and it always leads back to that. It's just about how we feel about ourselves, what we think about, it really starts within ourselves first.
Yes, and that kind of leads to the questions that you were asking me on how we can keep it good and even better. And that is by caring for ourselves, taking care of ourselves physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally. whatever it takes, being active, if you're a walker, going to the gym, our physical health is a key component in the bedroom for stamina, for energy, for many things, for just feeling good about ourselves. And mentally, like as we age, sex is more about quality than quantity. And the quantity is often right there with the quality. So you're getting more and more, better and better, you might say. But it's the intimacy with ourselves and it's the intimacy with our partner or partners that really creates better sex as we age. Mm-hmm. We know ourselves more. We can be more vulnerable. Mistakes are less important to us. We don't have to be perfect. We stop looking at social media as much and comparing. I mean, how often do we hear comparison is a thief of joy? Mm-hmm. Wow. All of that, so it's almost putting on blinders to what the onslaught of the world and the criticism, the stigmas, ooh, you're in your 70s or ooh, you're in your 80s, whatever that has meant through our lives, we've taken that in. And which reminds me, another little side point with Tantra, is our bodies store all of that. And when we store traumas, however big, however little, we push them down. And that's often into our sexual organs. So trauma can be used for healing as well. I just want to bring that up. I know that's not exactly right now, but I was thinking of it.
Go with it. We get every little piece we need.
Yeah, it's so by doing practices solo or with our partners, we can learn to like breathe into an area that we feel numb, like just holding a finger to it. We don't even have to be naked. We can be fully clothed, have our hands in that area and concentrate, breathing into it, feeling into it, releasing into it, making sound. If I have a numb point or if I have a pain point, what sound would that point want to make? Is it something like whatever it is? There's you're with yourself or you're with a loved one. It doesn't matter what sound you're making. Or is it like what sound would it want to have? And by releasing that sound, it's like taking out the trash without sifting through it. We don't have to mentally know everything that was released. We don't have to talk about everything. Maybe it was my childhood wounding. Maybe it was a previous partner. Maybe it was my own mental construct. Maybe it was a religion or religious organization. You don't have to go there. It's just, it goes away. And celebrate the new experience, the new freedom that we've found.
So I go to cranial sacral, so it reminds me of cranial sacral, but the added sound, that's like another layer to this. That's amazing. That I want to try that.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to take you up on that. That's a really good practice to have.
Sounding and sex, one of my teachers said in our class, people are willing to let their neighbors and their children hear their fights and their screaming because they're angry with each other. But they close the windows when they find pleasure with each other. And they don't want the families to hear them having pleasure.
Wow.
Yeah. And I thought, wow, what a huge door opener.
Yeah.
How different of a world we live in than that world, where
100%.
people are willing to express pleasure and quiet down the anger. Yeah.
Okay.
I was just at a retreat this last week, and we were talking about just different ways to just be on a higher vibration. And one of the things that we did like a billion times, which I always felt awkward doing, is just breathing in and then sighing out audibly. And it's just creating literally a vibration in your body. And that just reminded me of that. Just like sharing the higher vibration, the pleasure vibration of yourself rather than the angry or, whatever other lower vibration things out there.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to get silly, but my neighbors, they're going to get an amp to the window and they're going to be hearing some love next week.
Let's get some lawn chairs.
There you go. I'll say, hey, you want to hear how happy I am today?
Yeah.
Pull up at 8:30. You can listen. I'll have the speakers in the garden.
That would be a great podcast.
Right? You can experiment. No, I love what you guys are bringing to this conversation. And so it all comes to this energy, right? And I do feel, of course, reflecting on my sex life, when I feel down on myself, say, I didn't have time to groom myself the way I like to be groomed. I didn't, like you said, didn't do my exercise routine or my yoga practice. Any of those biological needs that we often have talked about in our previous episodes, like my energy is lower. So if I come to the table to, exchange that energy with my partner, then it's not as good. But if I have all those biological needs met and my mind and my body and my energy is beautiful, that sex amplifies to the next level, right? Like I feel, like you said, sexy within myself because I know I have landscaped myself the way I want to be viewed with for myself. I smell the way I want to smell. I feel calm. I feel present. You know what I mean? It's not this deed. Okay, here's the pity fuck for tonight. I feel like so many people get into that rut maybe of like one partner wants it more than the other. And then, they do it. And I feel like, I think we've all maybe have done that, and let's just admit it. And we do it because we're like, okay, we want to satisfy the partner. But when you're done, it just doesn't feel, and even the other partner doesn't even feel as satisfied as they would have if you showed up, with all of your beautiful energy. So when we do, have intercourse or just a sexual experience with somebody, it doesn't even have to be intercourse, but what happens with energy? Do we share it? Do we give it? Do we exchange it? Is it all of it?
It is. And a lot of that happens unconsciously. Mm-hmm. It's just in the act of living in life. And there are different lines of thoughts out there where, and I can't say even what's true for me because I can find pleasure in both. There are lines of thoughts with energy that I'll talk about the auric field. Our auric field has an edge to it. And inside of our auric field is our energy. And really that is ours. That is our right, our birthright on this earth, is to have our space on it. Mm-hmm. And that's our auric edge. And we can play with that, like if we're in a crowded room, we can bring it in and make it taller. If we have more space, we can expand it wider. I would say people have different amounts of energy within them. So sometimes their auric field is a little bigger. Sometimes it's a little less if we're not feeling so well. There's one line of thought is the most ecstatic experience is when you're edge to edge with a person. And that means you're not really bleeding into their energy and they're not bleeding into yours. You're not giving too much. You're not taking too much. It's this dance of right at the edge. And I like that. And then other theories, other teachings tell you to, definitely go in to each other's auric fields and play with that energy. I think that's what we do naturally. Mm-hmm. But the key point is finding what feels responsible to us and responsible and respectful to our partners. Some people feel everything so immensely in their body. And I've done this, I have a lot of energy, and I can put off people just by thinking about it. Like if I want to come at them, they're going to feel it. They're going to feel it big time. They're going to be like, back off, So, what you were saying too about grooming yourself and coming to the bedroom and our partners feeling on your A game, that's everywhere in life. Mm-hmm. When we feel really good about ourselves, when we have an energetic cleanliness about us, when we feel positive inside, when we're upbeat, when we're not bleeding our energy out, when we're not sucking from people because we need energy, when we are self-sourcing through either grounding or cosmos, ideally both, we are a complete unit. And we can bring ourselves fully to the world. Yeah.
100%.
Okay. So just thinking about someone who would work with you. When someone comes to you and says, Tracy, I need to learn more about tantric sex. I'm a 41-year-old woman and I've been married with my husband for, I don't even know how many years we've been married, but 13 years. And I need some help in the bedroom. Where do you begin?
That's my favorite offering right there. And it's going to be far simpler than you could ever imagine.
Okay.
Touch. Touch from distance, you can feel, I'm sure you've played with energy balls, you can do that with your partner. It doesn't have to be a contact touch. You can play with your hands and feeling energy, feeling with it on the body. Touch is something that can be explored so vastly, from a light stroke to nails to tapping to pinching to squeezing to, from very, very feather light to pretty strong touch. Finding what you like, sharing that with your partner. What feels good to you? Does this feel safe? Is this erotic? Does it do nothing for you? I think both people will have a lot of aha moments just with exploring touch.
This is so fascinating to me because I'm going through this with my husband right now, where just this realization that I grew up with not much touch. Like hugging is not a thing, like growing up, we did not hug much. We did not touch each other much. And that's all my husband wants, you know? And so I'm getting better at it, and it's still a work in progress. And it's almost like I feel like we were drawn to each other because he needed to teach me how to touch, and like I very awkwardly being like, I'm touching you because you want me to, like put my hand, just like slap it on his shoulder. But, I have to start somewhere. But I do love the idea of feeling each other's energy, not even touching at first. Obviously, like once I start touching him, it feels great. But like the initial getting myself to touch him is like, my husband's hot and I can't even like want to touch him. And it's such a thing from my childhood that I need to break through from.
So Stephanie, there's a lot of things that you could take that to with touch, because you were kind of sheltered from touch. And a lot of times when we haven't experienced something, boundaries can create a safety for us. Mm-hmm. So even touching from the fingertips to the elbow, start just with that. Mm-hmm. It gives you a landscape and a playground to experience. I don't know, I think I've listed at least 9 different layers of touch or ways of touching in a class one time, and it could have been more. I don't remember. It's been a little while. But there's so many things that you can do just with this area. And like the creases, many of our creases on our body are some of the most erotic places that we can touch, and we don't realize that.
Why is that? Because there's a lot of sensory in those areas?
Like the inside of our elbow?
Yeah. Like the inside of our elbows, the back of the knees, behind the knees.
Maybe it's because they don't get touched much and it's more sensitive.
I can't say I know the physical or science behind that one. Play with it.
I will. I'm going to play with those energy balls. I'm going to be like, because I am too touchy. And that when we became friends, I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm going to smother you.
Yeah.
But I might even make it, I like to be comical. It makes for me, if you haven't noticed, but I'm going to be like behind my husband's ass and be like, maybe cup some balls from far away.
Cup some balls. Just be like,
yeah.
You can lick them from far away too.
Oh yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Be at a grocery store, but all right, we're gonna do a scavenger hunt. I'm gonna try to not find you, or I'm gonna try not look around for you. I'll see if I can feel him doing me or something, or go to like, some random place in our yard where I have to pretend I'm picking my apples or something. So I think that to me that's so fun, like the element of surprise when someone comes behind, like when my husband comes behind me, I'm like, someone, like I have multiple partners, I only have one. Okay, when my husband comes behind me and maybe puts his hand under my breast and kind of slides his, hand under my stomach, like the element of surprise is like, that sensuality, it just drives me wild, and he knows that. But I think that would take it to another level, and we could make it funny, but also kind of flirt with it.
Yes.
So I like that idea.
That flirting and that romance is so fun, and no expectation. Mm-hmm. Like, how many times do we kiss our partners with no expectation of it moving to sex? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Especially women, I think. Well, it doesn't matter the gender. It really doesn't matter the gender. You have one that's a little more dominant, desiring sex, and one that doesn't. And they feel like, oh, every time they kiss me, they're going to want sex. So then you don't even want to start kissing because you don't, I've got to get the kids to school. I've got to get dinner made. I've got to get to work. I've got to get the car into the shop. The list goes on in our heads.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, great. If you kiss me, that means we're going to have to take time out for sex. And I don't have time. But kissing each other just to kiss each other.
It's magic.
It is magic. And then also curiosity, Stephanie, too. Like being curious of what touch feels like to you. Give it 5 minutes. And if it's still a no, then it's a no for you, whatever it is. But at least you know. And that can be in any part of the bedroom.
Right.
Can I give it 1 minute? Can I eye gaze for 1 minute? And it feels really awkward at first. Can I do it for 5 minutes and really look at my partner and get beyond the giggles, get into the beauty of seeing another soul. And we're nervous at first and it's awkward at first sometimes. And it feels like this is not right. This doesn't feel good. It's because it's new. But the more we practice it and the more time we give to it, we can really find out what our true answer is inside of us.
100%. And with the holidays coming up, you'd be the one on the ladder at Christmas because he's so fucking tall, and you can like kiss him, be the tall one for once, kind of play with the height thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's like my husband just wants a back scratch, wants me to hug him in his shoulders, and yeah, it's just a nice reminder.
But you've been doing good. Like when you came back like a week or so ago, like
I'm
you gave
doing
him
a
a
lot
really
better.
nice hug, and usually you'd be like, "Hi," and then like just turn around.
Yeah.
You
I mean,
hug
hugging
him.
people
Yeah.
is like, when it's too long, I'm like, fuck, I don't want this.
Yeah.
But I'm going to stay here. Especially when I know I'm safe. I know it's like, it's a my thing. Obviously, I would push back if I didn't feel safe. But yeah, it's very much like I'm trying to hold on a little bit closer with people that, I want to hold close to me.
And exploring why it feels uncomfortable. Is it really a physical sensation that you don't like? Is it a mental thing? Like, why
It's very
don't
much
I
a
like-
mental thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so can those walls be taken down just a little bit? And it sounds like you are, from what Vanessa said. And some walls may need to stay up for your safety or for you to feel good or to feel really comfortable. And all of that is okay.
Yep.
I think it's okay to not want to. I mean, I think it's okay to have the balance of both.
Right. Yeah.
I think it's okay that it's not your thing, but you're trying because you want to meet your husband, but you also are open to want to like it.
Yeah.
But there's like, I've tried oysters a lot of times and I still don't like oysters. Like, it's just the way it is. You know what I mean?
why those are supposed to be an aphrodisiac.
I know. I'm like, I just can't. Like, people have given up trying to give it to me all the ways, and I'm like, I just don't fucking like them. Like, they're just something, you know what I mean?
Let's go to lunch and I'll eat all your oysters.
Okay. And then you'll go have great sex. That's the whole reason I wanted to have them.
I have a question for you. Do you chew them or do you just knock it back?
Oh, I chew them.
I like it when I knock it back, but I'm like, what's the...
Okay. I'm going to be
Yeah,
straight
I
up. It feels like a load in the mouth. That's all I'm going to say. I just couldn't do it. It's like boogers or a load. I can do muscles, but when I'm just like, and then like I'm with my brother and my dad and my parent. My dad and my brother love oysters. They like always order, and then they've tried preparing them for me a million times. And I'm like, I'm eating this with my brother looking at me and my dad. I'm just thinking there's a load in my mouth. Like, this is just not good. So my point is, there's, all of us have our shit. Like, we all, it's whether it be food or touch or whatever. Because you're sensitive to the ears too, though.
I am.
You have like an outer physical, very sensitivity. But you're working on it. You're aware.
Yeah.
So
I'm sensitive all over.
it's okay.
And I bet, Stephanie, you feel if people need something from you.
Oh gosh, I'm on like book 4 of a book on empaths.
Yeah.
So.
And that's another thing, like with touch, there's giving and taking, allowing and receiving. So giving and taking is fun. Like if you're with your partner just from your fingertips to your elbow and you offer your arm to them willingly, 100%, my arm is yours. Take whatever you want from me. Fucking erotic.
Yes. Yes.
To see what they want and to
Right.
feel like no resistance and like it is such a turn on. Or just sitting in front of people cross-legged, a partner, and say, 5 minutes, you take what you want, boundaries, conversation first. This is off limits. I don't want you to touch here. I don't want you to use your tongue, whatever the case is. You get to be creative. Whatever you don't want, whatever you do want, 5 minutes, take from me.
Damn.
I like that.
I'm going to use that today.
Fucking hot. It is so amazing.
3:30 p.m. appointment.
Well, when my husband's a firefighter, he don't come home these days when he's gone. So I'm like, your last day, let's save up your nut because I want to have sex before you go. Oh my God. So yeah, we have a running joke about it. And then he gets deployed, sent to fire for 14 days. And I'm like, well, good thing we stocked up on batteries. You know what I mean? It's just the way it is.
It is. You make it work.
Exactly. I'm loving this conversation. So how helpful would knowing about Tantra be if you knew this at an early age when you're going into your sexuality? When do you think it's an appropriate time to introduce this this reminder for, is it in your 20s? Is it when someone's ready to be sexually active? Like when would you introduce this to somebody?
That Kundalini is our life force. So that means we're born with it. And we can cultivate that subtle energy and learning about it from birth on, teach our children by looking at them, by not looking at, they can read us. They can read our energy so much easier than adults can.
Oh, 100%.
So being aware of energy, there's no beginning. As far as sexuality, I would say absolutely if one could enter into a world like this when they begin, it's amazing. Now, there are times when sex is hot and heavy and that's awesome and it's very not tantric, you may say. But it's nice to have a book of a repertoire of things to do, places to go, ways of being. Everybody is different with their desires. And if we could show up and share our desires and have them share theirs and meet them, wow, we're great lovers. I think there's a lot of, when we're younger, sex seems to be hungrier, you might say. It's more of a, I need sex now. And as we age, it becomes a little more finessed. But offering that to a person entering into their sexuality, offering that subtleness, that put on the brakes a little and get to know a person or see what their likes are, or, play with kissing, learn how to kiss. Fuck, please learn how to kiss.
Yeah.
Please learn how to kiss.
This is, and I want to thank, this generation before us, which is you, that are paving this way for us to have this, guide to be okay with our sexuality when we're, 55 plus or, seniors, the last half of our life to really explore it. I think you paving this way is me paving the way for my children to say, okay, I'm right here, I'm going this way, but what do I do from them to me now? What is a healthier way of, instead of shaming and saying, don't do it, the way, I was brought up, her and I were both Catholics, which it did me good service. I did wait for the right partner at the time, and I did respect my body, and I was kind of embarrassed of the act of having sex, because of all of the stuff that you are told, in Catholicism and waiting for marriage. And I truly was going to wait for marriage. But then I realized I don't want to get married right now. And so I was with a boyfriend for a while and I felt very comfortable with him. But and I was upfront with my parents and they were really great about it. But to have had that extra step, I don't know how I would have felt if my mom was like, you need to really learn how to kiss better first before you have sex. Like, where should this come from? Because with that, do you imagine your mom being like, "Hey, Carmen, dude,
God,
Carmen,
no.
you gotta kiss a man well before you get to do it." Like, but so to me, it's like, would I have somebody? Would it be a book that we read or say, "Are you curious about this? This is kind of the path to having that connection with people is truly a gift," and that is the way it was presented to me, that it was a gift. So that's what's awesome. But there's also like letting go, like you said, and being okay to do the other things and not feel so like restricted about only missionary or, because it's just, you can get comfortable and be scared to try those things. And so I guess just going back, where would we go with this with the kids? Like, I don't even want to say kids, early, like mid-adolescence, whenever they're ready to explore that part of themselves. I do want to have my daughter and son have tools.
I do think that there's just a mind shift too. A mother had talked to me about how she tells her husband, they have a young child, she's like, I hope that when she grows up, she's going to have a great sex life, because we inevitably our children are going to grow up to be adults who are going to have sex, and that is a reality. And I think as parents, we often be like, oh, we don't want to think about that, but it's a reality. And I'd love for my children to enter in this thinking more of an energy, a life force, something rather than just like American Pie sex.
That's what I mean. That's why I had brought that up, because that was the perspective of what we had,
Yeah, very true. I will say I don't have children myself. I was a child, so we know what it's like to be a child, but I've never given advice to a younger person around this. I'll just be honest with you. But I think introducing the idea of being curious with our partners. We live in a world that's so very different than how we grew up. And it's a world of allowing human beings to explore who they feel they are, and it being okay with themselves, with their families, and with the world. Or we hope that it's okay. It's not always okay to some people, but we hope that it could be okay to people. And so we don't know what we don't know, and we often tend to think we're right and we know the way, especially when we're younger. And that's an age, that may be an age thing, that's that superwoman confidence that we may have, or whatever, who knows. We go through it, we've all had it. But encouraging someone, I don't know how open you are with your children, and I have some friends that are extremely open with their children about their sex life in a very respectful way. And their children are beautiful human beings, and they're not, you would never know that their parents have taught them so much about sexuality at a younger age. But being curious, especially with kissing, like I've taught workshops before to people, and I'll have a couple on stage, my business partners, and I would be guiding them on how to kiss. And this could be like a 20-minute talk.
What?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And it's we tend to just go in one way and think that's it, but there is so much to explore, the curiosity of just the mouth in and of itself.
Yeah.
So I don't really feel super qualified on how to talk to kids about this.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that's okay.
It's all right. It's just, for me, it's just saying it out loud.
Yeah, I just like a thought. This is a thought.
Maybe it's a wedding gift.
We need to process.
Or if they move in and it's serious, like, here's gonna be routine. Here's tantra. Let's hire Tracy for you guys.
Well, now that you say that, it's a good point, because we want to have open communication with our families, especially our children, teaching them when it's okay to say no. Ask them, are you experiencing any pain, discomfort, resentment? Are you wanting to hold back? Are you disliking sex? Are you liking it? Do you like the way he kisses you? or she kisses you, or they kiss you. You know, like those general questions, it doesn't have to be really specific. Are you happy with your physical touch with your partner? And
That's
if not,
I mean, it's
explore.
so simple, and that's mind-blowing for me to think about asking my children this when they're older, you know? But yes,
It's
I
gonna
need
happen.
to ask that.
It's gonna happen.
Yeah, and then my kid would be like, Mom, why are you asking me that? I'm like, well, we should talk about it.
But you know what? I think even if it's uncomfortable the first time we ask,
Yeah.
I think that line of communication's been open. So
Right.
say they're
Yeah.
embarrassed to tell their friends that they're not satisfied with their partner for the sake of that, they might come back to us with it.
Yeah.
You know?
Open the question. We may not get the answer at first.
But yeah, say, hey, we're willing to talk about this. We're
Yeah.
not uncomfortable.
Yeah.
We're having a good ass time because we listen
Yep.
to Tracy.
Have you seen that TV series? I don't think I'm going to remember the name of it, where I think it's based in Europe somewhere. Maybe not, but the mother's European, and she's a sex educator,
No.
and the guy is in high school.
No.
I'll need to look up the name of the series because I don't remember it. It's a phenomenal movie. Like, she is so open with her son. And he's the awkward teenager, you know, like masturbating under his sheets and then, you know, trying to wipe a clean, and mom doesn't want it. I don't want mom to know. And
yeah.
but it was an eye opener, you know, like this is real. This is real.
I
This
know. Well,
is
sex
real
and
life.
shame is such a thing.
I know.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what that picture of, you know, that scene that you just described. Yeah, taking shame out of sex is another aspect of
Well,
this.
Meet the Fuckers is the one that I thought of with Barbara Streisand, you know, and she's like, you know, did you ever see that?
No.
Do you remember? Well, Barbara Streisand is, what's the actor's name? Ben Stiller's mom in this movie, and he's coming over with his in-laws, and they're super conservative, and she's like putting on workshops and like stretching these seniors out, and they're like practicing doggy style on these things, and they're like, what the fuck? She's like, oh, hey honey, like nothing, you know, and she's like, I taught him everything he knows. And it's just, it's really cool. Like, I really liked that aspect that came out finally from popular culture to see seniors having sex, to see a mother that was like, I want you to have great sex. And she even asks that, are you still having great sex in the movie? I
Yeah.
hope that you're having great sex.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's so great. I think it's something we have to break through. So I appreciate it. And I know
Yeah.
you're a woman who's very busy, so we have just a few more questions to ask, and then you can add anything that you think we missed. But to introduce this to our partner, say, hey, you know, I love where we're going with this. What would be a great introduction to say, like, are you interested in doing this with me?
Absolutely. So one of the key factors is making sure that they know that you want to explore this with them and to learn together. Instead of, I'm going to be just blatant. I don't like the way you fuck me in the bedroom, so I think we should do tantra.
Yeah. Yeah.
You feel the energy, right? I mean, it was pretty obvious, but we can feel that way inside and present doing tantra, and our partner is going to still feel maybe inadequate because maybe there is something that we want to work through. Owning that it's not 100% a person's fault, that we both need to learn, and let's learn together.
Mm-hmm.
If the partner isn't ready, have a conversation. I would like to explore this on my own and see how they feel about that. Not going out with, let's say, another partner, although some Tantra education does provide a platform for you to play with other people in the class.
What?
That's a conversation that you have to have with your partner. You know,
Yeah.
where are our boundaries? Is this okay in our in our unity, or is it not? And but a lot of sexuality doesn't even have to happen with clothes off. It can happen with clothes on, like not even touching. You can feel penetration by not even touching a person physically when it gets to that point of that subtle energy work.
Wow.
So
That's blowing my mind right now. That's blowing my fucking mind. I would be the kind of person that would need to try this. I just like, that's okay. I'm going to break
What?
this down.
I'm just going to say the thing that really had blown my mind in my learning. I was in a class and we were learning what it was like to be in the opposite gendered body. So we energetically took on a lingam. I energetically took on a lingam, a penis. And I felt what it was through, we're guided through this and everything. And so I have an energetic penis that I'm walking around with. You walk differently. You stand differently. I felt differently. And then I had a woman later on, we were doing like a fun exercise, and she was sitting on top of me, and I was fucking her energetically with my lingam.
What? This is like blowing my mind.
And the whole class, not the whole class, but there were people across the room that said we couldn't concentrate on what we were doing because we wanted to see what you guys were doing.
Wow. That's some mind-blowing shit I gotta wrap my head
I need
around.
to pause for like 2 days and think about this and really grasp what just...
But you know what? This is an interesting thing because I don't have, I love being a woman. I don't want to be male. But, there's been times when I ask my husband when, we're done, like, I really would just for one moment want to know what it's like to make love on your side. Like, what does that explosion feel like for you? We have some good ones. Us women can have an explosion too, and then we can have a whole bunch of little ones. I just would wonder is it the same? Is it different? Is it? And so there is that curiosity with what you just said, and I can imagine, yeah. Do you feel like it can be comical to have that? Like at first, because you're uncomfortable, and it also depends on what size you think you got down there. If you are doing the penis,
exactly.
You know what I mean? And I know I'd have a big old fat one if I was doing it.
Yeah. We laugh all the time. I mean, come on, it is ridiculous in some levels, Like,
of course, but it makes it. I think that's when we laugh and we can act things out. It does make it more comfortable, right? Like that's why I say awkward shit here. Like it makes me more comfortable if I can break a laugh to accept what's happening, or our listener to kind of crack the ice to be like, okay, I can accept this information because there is a discomfort because of our conditioning. We are conditioned to live a certain way and be a certain way. So, what do you guys say about the air penis?
I'm still on pause and I'm still thinking about it.
It was so fun. Like my energy was like, I want to please this woman.
That's so amazing that if she felt pleased, like that's fucking crazy. That's like, to me, I really want to explore this to feel it. It's kind of like craniosacral. Before I did it, I'm like, that is such bullshit. Like, how can someone just doing that make you feel these, feel what everyone says, and then you do it and you're like, whoa. You know what I mean? Like, you have to go into the experience to not be so skeptical that it is or isn't true, that could happen.
Yeah, so. It's mind-blowing. It's so awesome to enter into this world of energy. Like,
well, you did enter someone.
That's awesome. Yes. I mean, she's probably like, that's the best dick I've ever had. You know what I mean? It could have been. I mean, you could feel good about that. That'd be hilarious. Well, is there any other advice you'd like to give to our listeners that are taking this all in? Any last thoughts or little pieces of information?
I think we covered so much. Being able to laugh is very important, like we've been doing on this podcast. Laughter is beautiful in any forum, and we learn through laughter. We don't take ourselves so seriously. Come in with no expectations of self or others. Be curious and willing to explore. It doesn't have to be, I need to know all of this by next Thursday. It can be a lifelong learning. And that alone keeps us youthful and attractive to ourselves and to others. When we stop learning is when life stops happening in many ways.
Ah, that was good.
Yeah.
I like that you said, I don't need to know everything by Thursday. I needed that today.
Friday maybe, but not Thursday.
Yeah. Too soon. Stephanie,
would you like to say anything?
No.
It's been great having you. I knew you had to be here for this because, first of all, you rewound us to do an intro to her, and I love that we did that because it did set a good foundation. You just bring that extra element that I miss truly. So thank you for being here today.
It was great to be here.
And this is always fun to have girlfriend time when we're talking about this. It's really fun. Well, here's our last 3 questions that we ask all our guests. The first one is, what is the baggage you're working to unpack? So it refers to a burden or something you carry from your past that you're constantly, working on letting go to move forward.
Judgment. I grew up in black and white world, right, wrong, good, bad, life, death. Mm-hmm. I remember sitting in a sandbox telling my best friend at the time that she was going to die unless she believed the way I believed.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I was 5, so I don't carry much of the religion with me, but I still carry the judgment.
Yeah.
And I don't like it, but it's there.
Yeah, I think we all have it, right? At some point in our lives in some area. Well, I like that you acknowledge it and you're trying to work through it. That's the important part. That's why I like this question.
Yeah.
Thank you. Do you want to ask the next one? What or who?
What or who inspires you?
I was reading these questions because you did give them to me, and it's a pretty basic inspiration, and I'm going to say Rumi. The reason being is because he has a way of getting to the center of an issue, very potent with pure love. And he speaks in pictures, and my brain works in pictures, so he can take you on a journey with his words, and I can feel it inside of me. Also in everyday life, anybody who's left a difficult situation because it wasn't good for them, I'm inspired by that person, by their strength, by their tenacity to say yes to themselves.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a great answer to all those questions. You inspired me by answering that question. So let's see, what has been a recent life lesson you've taken in and learned a lot from it?
That it's okay to let people go. Reason, season, and time, right? And maybe some relationships aren't supposed to last forever. And even though there may feel a loss, maybe it's saying yes to ourselves and it's a win for us. But it's not an easy lesson. Not for me, at least.
It's a hard one. Yeah. We don't like the finality of anything, whether it be mortality or, when someone is not your friend or your family even anymore. It's a lot.
I bet you with that answer, we've either thought of someone we've let go or thinking of someone
we're going to.
We would like to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for that reminder.
Yeah.
Well, gosh, you have just been awesome. Tracy will be sharing how to contact you through our show notes. So anyone listening, just scroll on the show notes of this podcast and you can get in contact with Tracy and see what she has to offer that, fits with what you're looking for. So Tracy, I appreciate you so much for being on here. And I'm so glad we were connected with my lovely sticky fairy.
Yeah. Thank you both so much. And thanks to Stephanie as well for putting us in contact with
Yeah, Stephanie. So Stephanie is her name. I call her my little sticky fairy, but Stephanie's her name as well. So I went, and she was also
Stephanie is your name?
Yeah, and purposely I had her on my first podcast without Stephanie, so I was still able to say Stephanie in my podcast.
Well, thank you. Generic name of the 80s.
I know.
So lovely. So lovely.
Would it suck if you didn't have this podcast around? Well, by having your support, it can stay on. There are bills to pay, motherfuckers. If you're listening on Spotify, click the About title on our podcast page, and then you'll see the underlying support link. Monthly contributions range from 99 cents to $9.99 a month. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, scroll down the episode you just listened to and click on https://patreon.com and hit membership. Your support goes a long ways. Thank you so much for listening, and pass this on, this episode, this whole podcast to somebody you think that would enjoy it. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.